What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Vikings Now. My name is Patrick Siepman. Coming up on today's show, we got a fun one. ESPN laid out what an offseason plan should look like for the Minnesota Vikings. So we're diving into some quotes from Kevin Seifert, the specific beat reporter for the Vikes that works for ESPN. This overall going over what they got to say for the Vikings offseason. It's going to be a fun offseason for this team. So let's see what ESPN has to say. But with the offseason here, you guys got to make sure you guys are subscribed. For many reasons. Any breaking news coverage that we get, we'll have a video for you guys ASAP. We also may go live if it's big enough news. Also, free agency. The Vikings got actually a good amount of cap space, so they should be active. So we'll have videos for that. Also, the draft. Are they drafting a quarterback? Are they going edge? You never know. And plus, it's all 100% free. So hit that sub button. Lock us in as your go-to channel this offseason. But ESPN broke it down into 4 topics, and we'll be going through all of them. First off, they said the biggest offseason priority for the Vikings. They gave their thoughts. And then also an under-the-radar priority. I really like this one, so stay tuned for that. And also a draft outlook for Minnesota. And then they have their big prediction for the 2024 offseason for the purple and gold, so stay tuned for that. Let's start off. What did they say was the biggest offseason priority for the Vikes? Well, we have talked about this on the channel many, many times. You got to figure out what you are going to do with Kirk Cousins. You know, obviously the Vikings are in kind of a tough spot right now because Kirk, I feel like he's that borderline top 10 quarterback, and it's like, do you want to bring him back coming off an Achilles injury, or do you just want to completely pivot to a young quarterback, or maybe even go get a veteran in free agency? But this is what the ESPN staff had to say around Kirk. He said, or they all said, his contract will void after the franchise tag deadline, giving him a clear path to the free agent market, where he might be the best quarterback available despite turning 36 next August and continuing his recovery from a torn Achilles tendon. They carried on to say the Vikings don't have an obvious heir on the roster. I guess Jaren Hall is not that guy. And then they said, and their draft slot puts them on the edge of the first quarterback tier. Cousins said he wants to finish his career in Minnesota, and the Vikings seem warm to that idea, but would they pay a market rate contract of $40 million annually or more? And I agree. Listen, I want Kirk Cousins back, but price matters. Like, you're not going to bring him back for $40 million of average annual salary. I don't think Kwesi would ever decide to do that. But let's just say you offer Kirk 2 years, maybe you give him $70 million. You say fully guaranteed, $35 per year. He gets to stay in Minnesota, and that also still opens up the idea of drafting a quarterback. And I hate doing this, but I do want to show some love to the Green Bay Packers. I think what they've done with sitting Rodgers behind Favre, sitting Love behind Rodgers, I think it ends up working out. I think the Vikings have an opportunity to do that. So I want Kirk Cousins back, but obviously price matters, and it's going to be interesting to see what they have to say. But Kevin Seifert, on a under-the-radar offseason priority for Minnesota, this is what he had to say, and I absolutely love this because he kind of put some heat on Kwesi's chair a little bit. This is what he said. He said, make up for a thin 2022 draft class. The Vikings drafted 5 defensive players in the top 165 picks of that draft, and only one fourth-round cornerback, Caleb Evans, has played with any regularity. The apparent misses set up a significant personnel problems for 2024. And yeah, these 3 guys right here, you could already chalk them up to being bust. I mean, Lewis Cine in 2 years has not played. Obviously, he had that fractured leg, so, I don't want to call him a certified bust already, but, it's definitely trending in that direction. Andrew Booth, I can chalk him up to fully be a bust. But also Brian Asamoah. Where Patrick was wrong, I was a big fan of Asamoah heading into the season. He just never really lived up to, that expectation that I had for him. And he honestly got beat out by, Ivan Pace, Jordan Hicks at that linebacker spot. But these are 3 guys drafted in the top 150, and they're all pretty much, almost certified bust at this point. That gets me to this. Defensive talent needs to be addressed. Like, I thought Brian Flores, in terms of what he got most out of this roster, I think he did a great job. But again, he can only do so much. Players are the ones playing. Definitely need some more talent on that side of football, especially on the defensive line, even in the secondary where the Vikings still have a shaky cornerback room. And there's going to be ways to address this. ESPN has the Vikings' estimated cap space at $37.3 million. You're going to be able to go get maybe a free agent edge. Maybe you want to go all in and get another lockdown corner next to Byron Murphy and a Caleb Evans. I would be all in. Or maybe you don't go quarterback at 11. You could also draft an edge. I got 3 edges I like. Latu, Dallas Turner, and Jared Verse out of Florida State. We've talked about them on the channel. So there are ways for the Vikings to fix this defense. But honestly, if I had to disagree with ESPN, I think the number one priority, yes, you want to figure out what you got to do with Kirk Cousins, but you got to add some more talent to this defensive side of the football, because you pair up Brian Flores with some more talent, I think the Vikings could be sitting on a top 10 unit next season. But I'll ask you guys, what is the Vikings' biggest need? Free agency just around the corner. The draft following shortly after. What is the Vikings' biggest need heading into that? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'm probably still going edge, but if it's not quarterback, I'd probably go edge. But let me know what you guys think. What is the Vikings' biggest need? So this is what ESPN said about the Vikings draft outlook, which I thought was interesting, kind of connecting back in, to Kirk Cousins. He said, don't rule out Minnesota looking quarterback early, though especially if Kirk Cousins, obviously signs elsewhere, and I agree. Listen, whether it's, a guy like Michael Penix, Bo Nix, a guy like J.J. McCarthy, I think the Vikings, if a quarterback they like is there at 11, fully expect them to take that guy. And also, we did get the report last season that the Vikings wanted to trade up for Anthony Richardson, so that could also be in the cards. But the guy I think, J.J. McCarthy, I'm a big fan of this guy, and I do think J.J., when I'm evaluating a quarterback like him, I think the support system matters. I think the Vikings would offer a great system for McCarthy. And listen, I think, in terms of all the chatter, we can't throw the ball deep. He was a product of the system at, Michigan. Listen, the kid was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. And, on his deep throws, 20 yards plus down the field, obviously, it's not crazy numbers, but it looks pretty good. Over 700 yards, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. And I do like JJ. Always felt like in college, in the bigger games, he kind of rose his play. Obviously, the TCU game last year in the semifinal wasn't his best game, but, both games against Ohio State, and obviously this season in the semifinal and the championship game, I thought he looked pretty good. But I also just have this feeling. I think the Vikings are going to take JJ at 11. I can already hear it now. We're going to be doing watch parties next season. I'm going to be calling out JJ the JJ for 6. Maybe it's a little bit of my hopeful thinking here, considering I went to high school with the kid. But I would love J.J. McCarthy on this football team, and taking him at 11, the Instagram comments and the Twitter replies probably won't love the move, but we'll certainly love it here on Vikings Now. Coming up next, big prediction for the Vikings offseason. What does ESPN think it is? Coming up shortly here in a second. But I do want to give a huge shout-out to Prize Picks, today's sponsor of today's edition of Vikings Now by Chad Sports. If you guys head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS, you're going to get a first deposit match all the way up to $100. I love using Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. All you got to do, you're going to pick 2 or more players. They're going to give you some projected stat types, and you guys just have to choose more or less. If it's a boring game, or it's an NBA, NHL, and you want to add a little more juice, Prize Picks is the best way to do so. So make sure you guys get hooked up today. PrizePicks.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Get hooked up today. I absolutely love using Prize Picks. You guys will too. That's Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. So what does ESPN think is the big prediction for Minnesota this offseason? Sadly, Danielle Hunter not coming back. This is what they had to say. The Vikings will allow edge rusher Danielle Hunter to leave in free agency despite the fact he set a career high with 16.5 sacks in 2023. Hunter's cost will be too expensive going into his age 30 season, likely over $20 million per year, and Vikings general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah will look to get younger on defense. And if this would happen, the Vikings would just let him walk, I would be in shambles. I get what ESPN is trying to say here, that Kwesi would want to maybe get younger on that side of the football, but what did we talk about early on in the show? Talent. Talent is the biggest issue, and Danielle Hunter is one of the most talented football players in the National Football League. I have said this countless times here on the channel. I still believe he is the most underrated edge rusher in the National Football League, and this season he was fantastic. Like they said, 16.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, that's a tongue twister, 85 pressures, but the thing I love the most is the TFLs. He was always kind of shaky in the run game, more of a pure pass rusher, but this year he was complete. 23 TFLs, was great at setting the edge, was great in the run game. But let's just say the Vikings do, let him leave. Maybe the Hunter wants $25 million a year, and Kwesi says, sorry, I just can't pay that. I do think then maybe that 11th overall pick would be an edge rusher, whether it's Latu out of UCLA, Jared Verse out of Florida State, or maybe even Dallas Turner out of Bama. The Vikings would need to address that group 100% because you're not going to roll in the next season. I love Patrick Jones. I think he's going to be a stud. DJ Wanham, obviously coming off that, torn ACL, he won't be there till probably Thanksgiving time. But you're looking at an edge group that might be one of the worst in the National Football League if Hunter is not there. So I want Hunter back. I see no reason why to let him go. I get the money. You're going to have to pay the man, but dude, he's a hell of a football player, and this defense needs talent. So I would bring him back, and I want you guys to get loud down in the comments section. Show Kwesi how much Vikings fans love Danielle Hunter. Type those 99s. Type his jersey number down below in the comment section. Guys, I would be furious if they let him go. I'm just going to be honest. I think he is one of the best players in the National Football League, and I just want to keep him here. Even if it's $22 million a year, keep him on this football team, and I think it will work out for them in the long run. But make sure you guys are subscribed here to the channel. We're going to keep you posted with all offseason coverage around the Vikings. Big questions around Kirk, Danielle Hunter, drafting a quarterback. What are they going to do? We'll have you covered with it all and more here on the channel. So hit that sub button, lock us in. See you guys next time. Go Vikes.